Hello everyone, welcome back to this free Figma course for complete beginners. My name is Ines, I'm a principal product designer and a hiring manager with 16 years of experience. If you've missed the previous lessons of this course, go to my YouTube channel and watch them. In today's lesson, we are going to discuss plugins and widgets in Figma. We have touched upon the topic on plugins when we were discussing the FigJam boards, so go and check this lesson if you've missed it. But what is plugins and widgets really? Those are the third-party tools that others have created to be used in Figma. They can be free or paid, and anyone, including you, can create a plugin or widget for Figma. I actually think that creating a plugin or widget is a really nice addition to one's portfolio, because this is a small product that you develop from the scratch. And because in order for you to create a successful plugin or widget in Figma, you need to go and talk with real people, you need to conduct interviews, usability tests, and then you will have the data of the usage of your product. It will create a beautiful and coherent case study for one's portfolio. So if you're feeling adventurous, go and explore how you can create a widget or plugin in Figma. We are not going to cover this in this lesson, unfortunately, because this course is for complete beginners, and I just want to give you an overview of how plugins and widgets work, so you can successfully use the third-party tools that others have already created for you to enable and speed up your work in Figma. So let's go straight to Figma and see how we can create a plugin or a widget. Let me first remind you that you can add a plugin or a widget to both types of the files that we use extensively in UX UI design, to the design file that we have opened here and to the FigJam board as well. We had a lesson on the interfaces for both the design file and the FigJam board. I will not going to touch this. We are going to discuss only from where you can add a plugin or a widget to your files. Let's also briefly touch the difference between the plugins and widgets. In my practice, I mostly use widgets when I work in a FigJam board, when I facilitate a meeting or do a brainstorming, and I add plugins mostly to my design files because there they automate things for me really effectively. There are three places in the interface from where you can do that. The first place is there on the top. You see I have some plugins installed already on the top, those that I use the most. In the saved plugins, there are the rest. And only from the top, you will see this development area from where you can start creating your own plugins. By the way, you need to know just a bit of how to code. You can use ChatGPT for it, but still understanding the code environment would be needed to create even the simplest of plugins. Also from here, you can manage plugins, and you see that we have a popover open. So let's segue to that, and this is actually the second place from where you can trigger your plugins and widgets on a file. So again, here you see that I have some plugins installed, and from here I can select them, and I can also choose from widgets, or I can choose to see them all. You see Figma is selecting plugins for you to be visible by default in the design file. That is because I have explained it already. We use plugins mostly in the design files, and widgets, they are mostly for the FigJam. Actually, you can also start the development from here. I did not know that, so it's also useful. And the third place you can add plugins and widgets to your files is by right-clicking on the canvas and selecting them from the dropping down menu. So you see this is basically the same view we had on the top. So let's select the plugin and see how it works. But before I do that, let me create a simple form here on the canvas, because to this form I'm going to add a plugin. So you see I have this form selected, and then I select a plugin that is called Beautiful Shadows, because I want it to control this object. And what this plugin does is that it allows me to add a beautiful shadow to my objects. You can notice now that the shadow is added to the effects panel. There are multiple layers of shadows that are created, and it looks really beautiful. You can also change the color of the shadow. Usually if you add just a hint of a shade here, it will look even more realistic. But this plugin, although it is very fantastic, because of this situation here on the right, it is not really convenient for developers to use. So usually I recommend to use this plugin for things where you need to just showcase your designs in presentations or in a dribble shot, for example. So those were the plugins that we can create in a design file. Let's move on to the FigJam board file and work with widgets. Let's first review all the places from where where you can add your plugins and widgets. Obviously, you have this menu item on the top, and now you see that I am only having plugins and widgets that are suitable for FigJam boards. They are not always 100% compatible. But most frequently, I am adding plugins and widgets from this bottom side panel. See here, we have the tabs, widgets and plugins. And as I said already, widgets are visual entities that you can add on a board and interact with them. For example, let me add here a calendar widget, and you see it appears on the board, and from there I can change the date, I can set all sorts of settings that I would need for my calendar to work, and I can even change the time period. And you see now it stays on the board. And if I'm doing, for example, a brainstorming session where I am thinking with my team, how can we distribute the project throughout the time that we have, we can do that from here just by adding post-its, for example, and adding our ideas. The other place that you can add widgets and plugins is by right-clicking on the canvas, and you see here the same drop-downs also with the suitable plugins and widgets. So you see it's very simple, and it is also very, very fun to explore widgets, especially for FigJam, because they are created by people, by the Figma community, and there are always new widgets and plugins that speed up my work or make it more fun. Let's actually see from where you can explore widgets or plugins. You can of course search them from here, but sometimes you would need to know what exactly are you looking for. In many situations when I'm planning a workshop, I don't really know what I'm going to do yet, and I might need additional ideas that can sparkle my imagination and enable me to create a more creative workshop. So what I can do is that I can go to the Figma community and explore plugins and widgets from here. You can see that in the Figma community we have the design resources. We have discussed that you can add design libraries in your Figma file from this community, and you see that we have plugins here. Widgets are the part of the plugins menu dropdown, so you just need to be mindful if you are looking for widgets. So let's explore what we have here and what widgets we have in the community, and it is very fun to interact with them. It is really fun to explore. The photo booth, for example, I really like and use a lot, so feel free to dive deeper here, and it will really sparkle your imagination once you get a gist of how plugins work and what is possible within them. In the video description, I will add some plugins and widgets that I use very often, so feel free to explore them and to add them in your Figma files. And that was it to the topic of widgets and plugins in Figma. It is a really huge area that is constantly in the development, and it is really speeding up our day-to-day work and makes it more fun. So feel free to dive deeper into the Figma community. It is getting more and more mature every day, and I can almost guarantee you that for every idea that you have or for every problem in Figma, you might find a plugin or a widget. And if you don't find a suitable tool for your situation, you can always create your own plugin or widget, but for that you will need to know how the code environment works. I hope you liked this lesson, and if you plan to continue learning Figma and mastering UX UI design, hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell. This way you will get a notification when a new lesson comes out. I see you next time.